Hey there everyone, and let's get started with the new movie. So in today's movie I'm gonna talk about the aliases and the type conversion. And these are the two major problems while we design an iOS app, so that's why I'm taking it on the first hand, and later on we'll move on to the more details of the scene. So the first problem is when you take input from the user, it is usually transferred to you as a string. And let's say you're expecting an integer, that is also transferred as a string. So performing operation on them is a problem. And another important problem is sometimes your variable names or your pre-built-in function names are quite big. So you do want to convert them into the smaller ones. So let me bring up my playground and move it onto the full screen here. So this is the screen that we will be working on. Okay, so before we even proceed to the type conversion, let me put up things like that. So for example, this is a simple value. Let's just call it as a literally value. And you want to assign some values to it. Let's say 2 or 2.2 or something like that. Now this is completely allowed and completely valid. But to make a point, let's just say if I want to type infer the value to it, now you get a couple of options. Usually, in most of the cases, you'll be using just simple int. This second guy, which is, you can see here, a 64-bit signed integer value. So in most of the cases, you'll be using this only. But you do have a couple of other options as well, like int 8, which is a 8-bit signed integer value, 16-bit, 32-bit, and 64-bit as well. So just to make a point, you do have an option in case you want to save a little bit of the memory. So we do have an option of that as well. But in most of the cases, you'll be using simple int. Now, in case you don't want to store the signed values, there is an option of uint as well that are unsigned values as well. And just with those values, there comes an option of the minimum and the max as well. Right now, it's not going to work because we are just type inferring it. But yes, they do actually have a value out there. So let me get back here. So in case if I just remove this and get an equal out there, oops, not like that. This is gonna fix the problem. Let me wait for a couple of seconds, and there we go. So this comes with a .min and .max method. So just to make a point, when you do a type conversion, make sure that you are completely familiar that you have an option of uint, u8, 64, 32s, and all of that. Now let me make a point here. Okay, let's use the pi example out here. For example, I create a value. Let's just call this as 3 or value 1, whatever you like to call. Let's call it as value 1. And this is value 1 with the name 3. So automatically it is being type inferred as 3. And I have a value 2 as well. That is going to be 0.141. So that's the value of the pi, 3.141. And I want to create a value of pi from it. So all I have to do is very simply value 1 plus value 2. There we go. But notice one thing out here. Let me just show you again in case you missed that. Now value 2 is actually double and value 1 is integer. So if I just use this is gonna give us an error, because if you want to perform these kinds of operations, you have to actually use same kind of data types like integer to integer and not with a string and integer. And usually this is treated as a string, and not usually, all the time it's going to be treated as a string because it's inside a double quote. And when user pass on any value including the numbers, this is being transferred to us just like that. So yes, we do have a solution for that as well. Now let's say you want to convert this guy into the double, because now both will be double. And we can perform some operation out there. So what we can do is just wrap the value inside this double. Make sure that the D is capital. In fact, every first letter is the capital if you want to do a type conversion. Now this is a perfect operation because both value are now double. This was already double and this was converted into the double. And just like that, you can convert the strings into integers and all of that. But do care a little bit of the things here, because let's say you are converting a string into the integer. Now Swift is gonna pop an error and saying, are you sure that user is always gonna pass on a number which can be convertible? So we'll learn about the force unwrappings and all of these later on. Right now just wanted to aware you of an error that is gonna cause you like that. Okay, this is the one topic, the type conversion. Let's call another topic, that is type aliases. So if I just open the type aliases, it says you can use the keyword type aliases, then the type name and the type expression. For example, I can simply call this as a simple sample value, and I want my value to be always uint 8. Let's just say 8. And now my sample value is always gonna be treated as a integer 8. Yes, you can interpret it as to any aliases. You can give it any value, any type, like dog, int, double, string, pretty much anything. But if now I want to use it, for example, I want to use it in here, my value, and I want to assign a uint 8 value to it. Now I either can do uint8.max, just I have done in the line number 1, or I can do sample value dot max. So this is completely just okay. This is perfectly fine. This gives us almost exactly the same result, because yes, this is an alias and this is out there. Now you might be wondering why I would like to do it. Now many times this uint8 is not just simple. When you will design, you will have long and very long name of the functions, and it will be so big that it's hard to read and it makes the code very clumsy. So in those particular cases, we can actually convert it into the type aliases and give it a smaller name like A, B. Yes, of course, A and B is a very bad name, but sometimes we do that. So this is one thing that I wanted to talk about. Okay. So this is all about this movie that I wanted to talk. Yes, I wanted to talk about the booleans, the tuples and all of that, but that will also come up eventually with the time. I have designed this curriculum very precisely by taking them in mind that you will be designing your apps out there. So we'll be talking with the apps perspective. What are the problems that we get while creating an apps? How do we solve them? And later on, when the whole picture will be presented in front of you, everything will become crystal clear why I have taught every single piece of code. Every single line will make sense out there when we'll be designing the apps. So with this, let's move on to the next one.